Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Ghost Iris Comatose, out May 7th on Long Branch Records. This album has 10 tracks, 37 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th full-length studio album. They are a Danish metalcore band. Now this album is a roller coaster ride from the first song to the last song. It moves you all over the place. It's just very dynamic. It has a lot of diversity of sound, of execution, and of song structure. It just doesn't take you into the same spot twice in a row. It just allows you to go and navigate and experience different emotions, different feels, different sounds, different depths of experience, and really keeps you glued to the record. It's an album that really has you on the edge of your seat with every single song. And because of that, you stay with the record. You don't feel like you're moving away from it because there's no sense of repetition throughout. This is an important element because when you have an album that is this diverse in approach, in construction, in delivery, normally it starts to feel a little bit disconnected from track to track. You don't feel like there's a sense of continuity throughout the album. It's a great collection of songs, but they just don't fit together. It's not the case with this record. I felt like there was enough elements throughout the album that ground or give some cohesiveness to the overall experience of the record, and that the ability to keep you on the edge of your seat and keep you intrigued in terms of what they're going to offer you next is another element that really allows you to continue on the experience of the record from the first song all the way to the last. Once you get into the soundscape, to me, the overall experience, it's really one of the bonuses of this album. This is an album that's very rich in sound. It has a lot of volume. It takes all the boxes and it really fills in all the space that it has to offer. It just feels rich. It feels powerful. Even when the songs are not necessarily heavy or aggressive, the sound experience is still one that just really expands throughout the record, throughout the songs, and doesn't really leave any empty space within it. And that to me is one of the key factors that really helps glue this album, because it doesn't matter if one song is more driven, if one song is more melodic, if it's more melancholic, if it's more brutal, more heavy, more aggressive, more intense. All of these things could be happening sometimes almost at the same time or from track to track. But the overall sound experience, the overall quality of execution and delivery stays very consistent from the first all the way to the last song. Within that sound, there are two pillars: the drums and guitars. First of all, I love the drum sound on this record. Sometimes there's this need to push it into a more driven experience and flatten it out a little bit. It's not the case with this record. Even when the drums are not heavy, they still feel like they have a lot of grounding, that they ground the overall experience of the tracks and therefore the overall experience of the record. But I love the presence that they have. Perhaps the best word to describe the drum sound on this record is earthy, because they just feel like they're coming from the earth. They just feel like they give roots to every single song. And like I said, regardless of the level of heaviness that the drums are bringing to the forefront of the song, that almost becomes irrelevant. They're not grounding the record or the tracks with the heaviness that they provide. They're grounding it with the substance that they have within the sound quality that they carry forward. Just absolutely phenomenal drum work as far as this record is concerned. Then the other pillar is the guitars, a little bit more diverse. The drums, I felt like they had pretty much two roles within that main scope, but the guitars feel a little bit more diverse. They go in a lot of different places. They do offer a lot of different looks, sometimes a little bit more driven, a little bit more melodic, a little bit more methodic, a little bit heavier, more aggressive with more intent. So they almost dictate the atmosphere, or at least the emotional drive of the tracks themselves. Obviously, they're the perfect partner for how the drums sound, because I felt like there was this effort to merge the two throughout every single song on this record in order for one to balance out the other. So when one drops, the other one picks up. When one picks up, the other one drops. Sometimes they both drop at the same time, or they both pick up at the same time. There's always this sense of unison between those two elements, these two columns, these two pillars of the soundscape of the record. But the guitars have a lot more diversity of approach, and they're allowed to go a little bit more outside the box or outside of the patterns that were designed for this album. Above all of this, you have the vocals. Jasper is incredible as far as the vocals are concerned. I like his soft, more clean style approach, and I also like his more aggressive, harsh vocals. They're both magnificent. The key really is to know when to use one and when to use the other, and how far you can push them and how much you can give them. I felt that with the harsh vocals, sometimes they went almost all the way to the limit. It just felt painful. They felt like there was a lot of aggression, a lot of pain coming into the outside from the inside in terms of how he worked them within the songs and the tone that he gave it into the delivery that he used. With the clean vocals, felt like it was going more towards the other side of himself, a little bit more grounded, more melodic, more methodic, more melancholic, a little bit more introspective. So on one side you have a style of vocals that exteriorizes what you're feeling, and the other one you have a style of vocals that's pretty much listening to your inner thoughts. And that was kind of the dynamic that I felt like it was taken throughout this record, but he delivered on both and really allowed the songs to have a lot more life. He became almost a heartbeat of the tracks. While the sound perhaps is the soul of the songs, his vocals is really the heartbeat of each and every single track on this album. Overall, this is a very well-crafted record. This is a band that if you've been following them, there's been a gradual progression. With each album, they've gotten better. I'm not ready to say that this is their best album to date, but it's definitely one that feels more complete. Perhaps not their most brutal record or the most heaviest record or the most consistent in terms of having one style and one approach, but it's definitely the best crafted album that they've ever released. You could see the gradual progression. You can see them improving album and album again. So this is a band that has this upwards movement from the first record all the way until now. And I don't really feel like there's a cap. I don't really feel like there's a ceiling for these guys. They seem to always discover a new gear, and they're always able to move it into a new direction, improve on what was done before, with their eyes always looking forward into what the future can bring them. This record is that step. I really think that the best from these guys is still to come, but this album is definitely pointing them in the right direction. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Coda. It's a heavy song, both musically and vocally. The track uses the drums to really create a heavy path. The drums really become the foundation or the roadmap as far as this song is concerned. The bass is super groovy. I love the bass on this track. It doesn't come into the forefront all the time, but when it does, you really notice it, and it does give a different sensation to how the track comes across. The guitars become more of the driver of the experience, and then the vocal approach matches the intensity of the song. Where the song goes as far as the heaviness is concerned, the vocals follow, or vice versa. But those two are interconnected. You definitely feel some sort of symbiosis between the overall aggression that the song has and how the vocals are being put into the forefront. It's just a really interesting dynamic. The clean vocals with some backing vocals offer an interesting mix because they hide a little bit of the melancholy in them by having backing vocals behind it. It increases the depth of style and the depth of approach as far as the vocals are concerned. But I like that because it kind of merges a little bit of the yin and yang that this song has to offer, and it gives you a little bit of a chance to breathe. Because when the song is heavy, the song is heavy. So those more melancholic, melodic moments with the clean vocals really give you a chance to just pause, reset, and get ready for the onslaught that's coming right around the corner. Next, Ebb and Flow. I love the title of this song because this is an album that's built on ebbs and flows. So it's really interesting that they decided to name one of the songs Ebb and Flow. It's the perfect title for how the record is put together, and it definitely fits this song as well because this is a song that has incredible ebbs and flows. It's a more melodic track, but it still has some bite musically. I don't think this is one of the most aggressive songs on the record, but just because it's not one of the most aggressive songs, it doesn't mean that it doesn't carry a little bit of a punch. It does, but it changes, it fluctuates, it moves really well, and it has a lot of volume. It's a track that just feels really big, and perhaps that sound, that volume is what gives you a sense of heaviness throughout the track. Not that the song is actually necessarily heavy, at least when you compare it with other tracks on this album. But this track kind of gives you a sense of what the whole record is really about. An album with ups and downs, with melody, heaviness, and a lot of volume. Last but not least, Coma. Great intro. I really love the intro into this song. It just has a really somber feel to it, and then that somber feel really stays as far as the atmosphere of the track is concerned. Overall, it feels like a very aggressive song. It just feels really powerful, really brutal. The overall guitar sound on this track is absolutely alive. It just feels like it's growing. It feels like it has a life of its own. The harsh vocals really pack a lot of intensity and make the song feel even bigger, even more brutal, even heavier. The clean vocals take the song on a huge dip. They bring a lot more melody but also melancholy with it. It really gives a different atmosphere to the track. It becomes a track that has these two different points of no return, almost a more heavy side and then a more melancholic side. The two are really well intertwined, and you almost feel like you need them in order for this song to exist in the way that it does. But the sensation that you get out of this track when you finish the song is that this was just a relentless, brutal track. You almost forget about the more melodic, melancholic portions of the song because they kind of go under the radar. The overall impression of the track is just pure strength, pure heaviness, pure brutality. This is it. This is Ghost Iris with Comatose, out May 7th on Long Branch Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.